Boom. And we should be off and running. And Scott was number one. He was there like a long time ago. What a blessing.
Oh my gosh, you guys. Happy 4th. Happy 4th. It is not so happy for a lot of people. So we're coming in today with intentions that, everyone who needs some help, electricity to be cooled off, that they find that somehow, some way, because it is a mess out there. Really, really bad. Hello, Scott. Congratulations on number one. Miss Christine Love. I hope that you and that beautiful your angels are doing well. Martine. Yeah, well, it feels huge. There is something huge going on, and we're going to talk about that. So your feeling was dead on. Hello there, Ron, Miss Alice, Gydra Deanna, Miss Sino Morphe, good to see you. Israel, happy 4th. I'm so glad you're still here to come in and say hi to us. Jason of Oz, Mary D, indeed, you made it. I was just admiring a very beautiful, it's like a beautiful fairy island in Mary's yard. She is so gifted and so talented in the fairy realm. It's amazing. Hello, Jill. Good to see you. Yes. Dreaming in Puerto Rico. Happy. I looked at that. It said happy but it's more like happy Dependence Day these days. It's not really an Independence Day anymore like it used to be.
And Ron Simpson's in the house as well. Great to see everybody. Hope you're enjoying your day, doing your thing with family and friends. And hey, you guys are family, so we're with you.
Here we are. So here we are all together. If you have nothing better to do, thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to make the best of it. That's what we're going to do, despite a lot of other things that are going on. What do you do when you feel so helpless? I think we just set our intention and we work that way. We work through energy if we can't do anything else.
Yeah, Cindy was out there working in the yard early on, getting things done before it starts to boil out there. It is really hot and really humid, and we have a lot of records going down. I want to thank everybody though for liking, sharing, making sure you're subscribed, and also hyping when you're available. I think we get 3 hypes per account per week, something like that. Anyway, I don't know. They have all these rules. Keeping up with the rules, right? Want to thank everybody also for their support on Patreon and memberships, and also with Heart's Home, which is our youngest channel. This was, I thought, a lot of fun and very interesting. Infinite Fractals, the journey back to the one true source. Well, why every religion shares some similar patterns. There is this common core. And yet there's dogma, which has been put there to divide. I gotta say, I feel dogma is a demonic concept.
It is. It is. I haven't seen a whole lot of good come out of dogma, really. And it's guarded. I think in the fact that it is so guarded, or should tell us something.
Well, there's a lot of things that should tell us something, but before we get into all this about demons and the Goetia and Solomon and the Talmud, let us just check and see what's going on out there in the world. Right now, the biggest quakes we have are a 5.3, as you can see here, the Balleny Islands region. This is pretty darn close to Antarctica. Oh gosh, what's going on in Antarctica? For real, we don't know. I mean, I bet you there's a lot going on. Right now, it looks basically, just put this in a tiny little sentence. It looks like everything is pretty quiet at the moment. Not that that's going to last too long. Again, nothing bigger than a 5.3. And I don't see any major swarms, nothing too unusual. Really, when you get down to it, it looks kind of typical at this point in time. That could change very, very quickly. Just like when we look at the sun and you see, it was pretty tranquil. And then all of a sudden we had a little barrage, a whole bunch of M-class flares. And we did end up getting ourselves a storm, a geomagnetic storm. It went up over 7 as far as the KP index. So that was a G3 level storm. And at the moment, as we're doing this, we're back over 6. So share with me, guys, how do you feel today? What does this do to you? Are you one of those people that's really sensitive and you could tell when the KP is super active, or you could tell when it's, completely flat?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's off and on. Like sometimes I can feel it, and then sometimes I don't. But a lot of times, if I am feeling off, major headaches, something going on, usually we definitely have a lot of action, or there is going to be an earthquake, or we just had an earthquake. I think all of our bodies, in some way, shape, or form, we are very sensitive to the earth's changes.
Yep. Dreaming in Puerto Rico, frying from the inside. Typically, it seems like when you're in Puerto Rico or the Caribbean, though, isn't it typically kind of always within about 10 degrees or so, 10, 15 degrees, without the wild swings that you get when you move a little bit farther north or farther south? Again, it's all relative, and it's all relative to what we're used to. One of the things that a lot of people might not have realized, like in the American South and also in the Southwest, you gotta have AC. So everybody has AC, but in a lot of places in Europe, especially if you're talking the more northern tier of Europe, a lot of houses still don't come with AC because you just don't typically get quite that hot. So a lot of people might not be really prepared for what we're going through now and what's just ahead of us.
Oh my gosh, it's awful right now. It's horrible out right now. What they're doing is like the systematic failure of everything. And we are going to start talking about that a little bit more, I think. But if you look at the domino effect going on up in places like the Bronx, these other areas where it's a little more populated and people are a little bit poorer, no electricity, no AC. They're up on the higher floors, not really getting much water because they've turned the fire hydrants on, out of their goodwill so people can get some water. But now there's no water going up to the third or fourth floor, or very little, or it's very, very brown. The brilliant idea to bring in all these electric buses. Well, now they can't charge any buses. The subways, like half of the subways are down. You can't really get anywhere. People going to the substation thinking, oh, I'll get AC there. Nope, no AC there. But I'll give you one guess. Guess where there is AC?
Well, I'm sure the politicians have it. That we know. So we had that strong G3 geomagnetic storm. It's subsided, but the KP is over 6 right now, so we'll keep our eyes on it. But it also caused aurora for many places across the U.S. and Canada. This was due to a CME. When you look at the heat wave, we have a double heat dome merging here. Yeah, this is a lot of heat. And, it's coming at the 4th of July. A lot of people are getting together with family and friends. How about this? The red sky over New York on the eve of America's 250th anniversary. Nature or a sign? So, what's it?
I just saw something really weird go by.
Did you?
Yeah. Watch for a second. And there's going to be, I don't know if it was an electrical or something flew by. Keep going. Come on, where to go? I know. Okay, it's going to go on the way back. Just keep watching. Trust me.
Okay.
Hang in there.
It's a weird color. Look at this orange reddish color here. Yeah,
Okay,
blood,
sorry, maybe it was
blood red.
There it goes. You saw it. It was electricity. It was like lightning.
Well, again, I was brought up with heat lightning and that whole concept. It's interesting, too. The sky over Caracas, Venezuela turned red following the earthquake. And so some people say this is a sign of the galactics, or is it a sign of technology? You know, I don't take it as a sign of the galactics, but I found myself disagreeing with that one particular channel often. I think actually he blocked me too because there was some things that just didn't feel right. Again, you gotta use discernment. Yeah, this does feel like a message, but could New York be a target for something? You know, again, 250th anniversary, absolutely, New York could be a target. And at the same time, a lot of psychics are picking up that July is going to go in the record books as a turning point. A turning point, you know, I wish I could say, you know, hey, it's the home run. We're just going to go now and trot home and everything's going to be great. We're going to get all these, you know, demonically inspired politicians out of there. And, you know, I think it's still going to take a little while. We're just at the point now where maybe you're tipping the needle of 50% of people realizing that something's been really wrong. So I think there's still a ways to go.
Well, there's a ways to go, and we have some very, very difficult planetary alignments today, too, which do indicate that very bad things could happen. You know, I don't take this red sky over New York as sign that anything good is going on. I take it as a sign of some catastrophic failure of the entire system. I mean, red is just not a good color. It's not a color that you go in and wear when you're going to go, play around in the arena with bulls. And I mean, a lot of insects don't like the color red. I mean, a lot of things do not like it triggers something in them. So what's going on is it, yeah, it can trigger aggression. So I don't see this as a divine sign of anything good.
No, you know, and that's the thing too, because you know, it's like Cindy and I. Our purpose was never to become the biggest channels, or to we would the thing we would never do, and we were offered things from, you know, again, the secret societies. They were trying to recruit us. No, we'll lie low. We'll have a very small channel and we won't grow. And that's fine because we're helping the people that we need to help. If we wanted to just go into money and making money for the sake of making money, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing because it's hurt us more as far as that goes financially in many ways. Um, it's in opposition to that purpose, but our purpose is to awake as many people as possible, turn the tide. We want to see this dark system removed. That's why we're here. We're here to help people turn the tide, and let's watch, you know, the end of one age and the beginning of a much better age transpire in this incarnation. That's why we're here, is to help that along.
Yes, and to help each other. And I just love it. Nicole put out there, I found eating watermelon and juicing cucumber juice helps my body deal with the heat. That is really good advice. I don't know if anyone has, if you're really, really hot and you have those things, maybe get that in you and see if it helps your body deal with the heat. And Arkansas has red wasps. Yes, we got those ornery wasps and stuff around here too. As long as those nests don't get too big, they are good for pollinating. But my goodness sake, and any other tricks out there to help people stay cool in this heat? I know heat exhaustion creeps up on you really, really fast. When I used to live real close to Death Valley, people would go and they wouldn't take it very seriously, 20 something year olds, and they would go out in the heat and just thought that they could muscle through, but they found themselves very quickly in an ambulance. So it's best to, if you can, get on top of it, stay cool, and don't try to just muscle through it. That's not a good idea. I saw Dreamin' in Puerto Rico says usually if he's still, he's just dry, but it's been sweating like crazy even though you're still. It's kind of been that way out here, but it's generally humid here. It's just hard because I went outside to do some yard work in the shade, and I came back in and my clothes were drenched. Everything was just drenched, and I was able to handle the heat okay, but man, oh man, it is really weird out there. The weather is not normal.
In fact, you have America 250 events being canceled, reshaped, changed, parades, different things going on like that because of the hottest weather in years heading into Independence Day weekend. Records broken. In New York City, the temperature reached 100 degrees, first time since 2012. And back then in 2012, it topped out at 107. That was really hot for NYC. DC had a high of 102, breaking the record of 101 set in 1898. Feels like 115. Yeah, it looked like DC was one of the hottest places right now. Again, living in the South for most of the last 20 years, you get used to 90s and it just feels kind of normal. But when it's in the 90s and it's also 90% humidity, you gotta have changes of clothes. It's just a given. You're not going to get through with just one shirt and one pants or shorts. You're going to need more. In fact, when you look at the live power outages, you could see, what do we have? We have Michigan has the most outages right now, 352,000 people without power. In Michigan, 158,000 in New Jersey, 47,000 in PA, almost 40,000 Illinois, 36,000 Ohio, 17,000 in New York, 10,000 Wisconsin, 6,000 in Arkansas. So not a good day to not have power. This is Coney Island Beach. Look at this.
Just relax, just relax. Just relax, just relax.
As somebody that grew up in Connecticut, 20 something miles away from, New York, and spent a lot of time on Long Island Sound. Yeah, that's not something that happens every day.
No, I mean, it doesn't look like this was in any way expected because of the amount of people that are out there with their children and things. It seems like what was expected was a relatively normal day. Guess not.
Yeah, it does feel like we're being microwaved. How about the wind and everything? The cloud situation that you see here, this is like how it was when I was driving home on my bike the other night. And, it's like mostly blue skies, but then you see over in one area, there's just a big, dark, ominous cloud. And the wind was, kind of like this that popped up. And yet it wasn't everywhere. Cindy was like at home, 5-10 miles away from where I was riding. And it wasn't like that here, so it's weird. And I really do, think about the technology that's in place.
Well, there was also that micro storm there in Wisconsin also where there was people on a boat that lost their lives because of a really strange micro storm. It just wasn't normal. And we have been having them here more lately, and I think possibly what's going on is we have some elementals that are quite cranky. They're not very happy, and they're stuck in this dimension in this moment in time, wreaking a little bit of havoc. But I don't think they would be able to bring so much grief if the imbalance wasn't the way it is. So I think we bring this about by our own imbalance, and that's why it's important for every single person to do the best you can to find yourself in a state of balance.
This is such a great point. Once we get through all the news and we start going into the kind of the meat of today's video, I got to try to remember to talk about that and the elemental side of things, because we were divorced from that side of things. They cut that out of our life. We understood that we need to work with and be in resonance and harmony with the elemental beings if we want to be safe and we want to have more of a angelic presence around us, protecting us, as opposed to more of that malevolent demonic energy.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Dreaming of the Desert says I've seen dust storms whip up in seconds in Arizona. Yeah, some of those really big, big, big dust storms, those huge dust devils. And I think some people might mistakenly think that they're a little bit harmless and just kind of go on right through them. But no, they can kick up and really cause some damage. So I think right now we just need to be very mindful of nature and what's going on.
Yeah, when we were living in Amargosa there in the desert, in our little 19-foot trailer, man, there was a couple of storms that I thought we were going to blow over. They were so strong.
Oh, yeah, that desert can be brutal out on those plains. And when you drive the desert enough, you start to learn the areas. Like if you come off of a certain hill, you know that there could be certain winds going in a direction. So it's one thing if you know the desert. That's very, very helpful. You stay on guard and you know the desert. It's folks that don't know the desert that are driving through for maybe the first time that get caught off guard with some of these sandstorms, and trailers that get flipped over, people who just don't know the road, uh tourists who are tired of driving, people out of their element. There's just so many dangers. There's so many things to know that you need to know about your area, your specific area, and it makes it kind of hard to navigate this world sometimes.
Yeah, and there's so many strange, unusual things. Here you have a massive sinkhole, literally. Uh, it's just there's major change. This is Syracuse, New York, by the way, upstate New York. Huge sinkhole swallowing up a car. We've seen a lot of that in the past. Right now, looking at the fire map, man, there's fires all over. Look at them in Utah and in Nevada, and Colorado's loaded with fires. Arizona, New Mexico as well. It is this season. But, thankfully, people are a little bit more suspicious and watching things a little bit closer. We could see there's some right there on the border of Idaho and Oregon. And this one over here is between Washington and Oregon. Lots of fires. Even down in Florida, there's fires. And we still have that one raging in North Carolina. And Canada is just loaded with fires, which when you get all that going, then you also end up having hazardous conditions, smoke hazards. So especially right now, there's a lot of that going on in Colorado. But again, the other places that we mentioned as well, you can see the little boxes. So be careful out there. Every area has its challenges, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely a lot of particular challenges. So, help those around you, because a lot of people are traveling right now. Today, people are not in their element. So just make yourself approachable to help people, I guess.
Then you have Super Typhoon Bavi completing eye wall replacement cycle. This one is potentially going to be a problem to Taiwan, certainly to Guam and the Mariana Islands, but then after that, Taiwan and China. So, this is up to a Category 5 cyclone, so it's at the strongest level. It's going to have quite a bit of surge with it when it makes landfall. So right now, again, the Mariana Islands, Guam, definitely need to be on the lookout, and Taiwan after, and China. 3 kids dead as Geneva lake boat capsizes because of the wild storms. This is what we're seeing. These straight line winds, these storms that are coming in out of nowhere that just feel weird. And this is, again, in the Chicago area. So, the Great Lakes, they really are like the size of oceans when you get down to it. And so, be aware. There's a lot of people having fun boating at this holiday time, and so just be careful and aware of the weather.
So careful, and this is so traumatizing because the kids, the from what I saw, the kids were wearing life jackets. So that's really unnerving. That really bothered me because they did, I mean, they did what they should have done and made sure the kids had life jackets, and still that happened. So sending a lot of prayer into families and everyone that's been affected by this.
Yeah, and Adelaide hit by 70% of its July rainfall in one single day. Successive cold fronts bring flooding and damaging winds to South Australia. So again, it's all over. It's in the southern hemisphere. It's in the northern hemisphere. Those going through the summer, you're getting hit with extremes. Those going through their winter, you're getting hit with extremes. More volcanoes are going off now than what we've had at past times, and there's a lot that might be just getting ready to go off, and I would suspect will be going off over the course of this summer into the fall. I think it's going to be a little bumpy period of time. Manupsky volcano erupts for the first time since 2013. This is in Russia, by the way. So we're seeing a lot of them that maybe have been quiet in our more modern times that are awakening. Hundreds of firefighters are battling a fast-moving wildfire near Spain's Costa Brava. Strong winds have fueled the blaze near La Brisbal de Emporia, or Emporada, and prompted stay-at-home orders across several municipalities. So this is what we're seeing all over the world right now. And we're still seeing all sorts of strange things going on with airplanes and helicopters and train derailments. This is JetBlue flight reports a drone strike. A JetBlue flight hit a drone, or a drone hit the flight during approach to New York airport. Now, the aircraft landed safely, and there was no evidence of damage. But, again, drones shouldn't be up in this area, so who's doing it?
No, I know drones definitely shouldn't be, and they don't. I don't know. The powers that be don't seem super big on getting the drones out of the way. It's like they're like, oh, drones over our facilities. Well, we don't know who it is. Let's just leave it there. But just going back to Wisconsin for a minute, Mary was saying people couldn't get home because all the streets were blocked from trees being uprooted. So, I mean, that is a very suspicious storm. And the more I look at it and the more I look at things that are going on now, the more I feel that there are some very cranky elementals out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of things out there that are cranky, that's for sure. Planes and helicopters dropping millions of live genetically engineered rabies vaccine baits. This is one of those things. Of course, we've had tons of reports of literally dropping ticks in boxes. And then we also had all these GMO mosquitoes that were unleashed in like Florida and California, which, by the way, with some of the diseases that these GMO mosquitoes were supposedly engineered to, work against. You have no cases of any of those diseases really popping up, and then all of a sudden they release them, and then you got cases of the diseases popping up. Doesn't that seem to be going against the stated purpose? Yeah, this is just part of the reality. USDA confirms this particular operation spans 6 states, coating rural communities with lab-made oral vaccines known as Reboro VRG. These baits contain a live recombinant virus, supposedly, capable of infecting multiple species. 2019 Ouchie study found it can persist and shed for weeks, leaving animals contagious long after exposure. Even the CDC admits people may be at risk. Yeah, sure. The government keeps flooding forests, waterways, and neighborhoods with millions of these live virus doses. And not everybody believes that, the V word even exists. But if it doesn't exist, then what is it that is in its place? Is there anything in its place? Or is it just completely psychosomatic? It's interesting that a good portion of people have looked a little deeper, and they'll recognize the time before germ theory was dominant, when terrain theory was what most people subscribed to. Now, that did change. Again, there was that family, the Rockefeller family, that did so much to change the schooling. And, again, what people were brought up with as being the way things really operate. Everything changed in like the last 150 years.
Yeah, I mean it's changed a lot. So, with these types of things, the studies that I saw, they had to put down several creatures during these studies, and there was I think 38 out of 42 had to be euthanized during these studies. And then not too long ago, they just had a recall of this very ouchie here. So I don't trust it. I don't like the direction this is going. Does not smell good, does not feel good, does not feel right, does not feel in alignment with nature in any way, shape, or form. If anything, I think it's like poking nature with a big hot prod to see what she will do in return.
Yes, and comments too about Krakatoa, which is showing again activity too. So 2026, where are they doing this with these rabies baits, whatever you want to call them? Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, and West Virginia. Now, last year, Maine, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, West Virginia, New Hampshire, and Vermont. Yep, just so you know. The largest sunscreen skin cancer study in history, 500,000 basically people, found again sunscreen users are far more likely to develop every major form of skin cancer. As you could see, plus 292% invasive melanoma, melanoma in situ 258%, basal cell carcinoma, 140% more likely, and squamous cell carcinoma, 126% more likely. 27% of sunscreens are laced with benzene, which is a known carcinogen. And that was detected in products from such brands including Neutrogena, Banana Boat, Sunbum, CVS Health, Elta MD, Raw Elements, Top Care Everyday, Good Sense, Sunburnt, and Fruit of the Earth. So, here's just another thing. People are still so indoctrinated with that thought. Lather up, lather up, lather up. It's just, again, to me, it's just amazing how the only time I ever burned was when I was actually using sunscreen. I don't use sunscreen anymore. I don't seem to get burned. There are other variables because my diet is way cleaner now than it was in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's really important what we put into our bodies. The fresh organic fruits and vegetables, just adding those in your life. And, test yourself, add it in. Add in the really good foods for, have your blood work done, add in the really good foods, wait 6 months, do the blood work again. You're going to see positive change if you're being honest with yourself.
Yeah, college students testing at the level of 10-year-olds. Are you smarter than a fourth grader? This is the reality. IQs have been dropping in the United States and in many Western nations. Why? I mean, really, when you look at the U.S., it's dropping like a rock. So it tells you that everything we've been doing has been the wrong thing. It's not working. In fact, I've seen little tests that used to be given to like ninth graders. And, I don't think even most college graduates would get them right now. It's true. Everything that we've been doing is leading to lower IQ. And not all not all countries are the same. There are countries that are doing much better out there than other countries. And sadly, for us here in the U.S., we're doing really bad on the whole. So again, we need some serious change.
Well, it's all very deliberate. Years and years and years ago, I think back in the 80s, there were several people who popped up and said that, we are being infiltrated on a grand scale, and it's starting in our schools, and you're going to notice this change, this change, this change, and you're going to watch it spread like a cancer. And they laid everything out. In fact, we've done videos on it about how, just different agents are coming in and applying certain ways of doing things in our school system to slowly but surely eat away at our people, eat away at our morale, eat away at the idea of what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be proud of yourself? I mean, just chip away at simple things that seem simple. Self-love. You know how important self-love is to a child, to teach self-love, and you know how they have just completely destroyed it on such a grand scale that most people will say, well, what, don't even really know what exactly is self-love. They have no clue. And that's where we're at. And that was very deliberate. So everything is actually rolling out as planned, unfortunately.
Mary says Common Core curriculum. Now, our beloved Mary D is a teacher. Actually, a few of you guys are teachers out there, so you would know. And a lot of it is what you're forced to teach.
Forced. Keyword is forced. It's horrible.
Yeah, and again, we understand it's conditioning. It's conditioning. It's not trying to get the best out of you. It's trying to get you to think a certain way.
Yeah, it is. It is. And no child left behind. And yeah, definitely. It's just been horrible. It's been hard on the teachers. So I know a lot of teachers that are in the classrooms now or have been teachers are not able to be teachers because of what they've seen and the red tape that's involved. So it's that bad. It is to that point. But, just welcome in good old handy dandy AI because AI has no conscience. It just does what it's told, right?
Meanwhile, global mental disorders have nearly doubled since 1990. Wow. Now affecting 1.2 billion people worldwide? That's huge. 1.2 billion? There's supposedly like 8 billion people. That's a huge portion of the population that has mental disorders. Now, I have to look at that kind of suspiciously too, because, if you look really closely at the whole concept of mud flood and everything that transpired in our history, which has been, again, constantly rewritten, you do see that there were a lot of psychiatric institutions that went up. You had a lot of orphan trains. You had a lot of all sorts of different things that popped up. And even you had the medical profession telling people to go get a full frontal lobotomy if you feel depressed. And I've showed they have ads for that. And we've covered that before. I mean, literally, doctors recommend a full frontal lobotomy. It sounds like a bad joke, but it's not. They used to recommend, certain brands of cigarettes. And we've just realized that as time has gone on, man, we've just been getting nothing but a sales job. And, they're not looking out for our well-being. Again, global mental disorders doubling since 1990. The highest mental disorder burden is among individuals 15 to 19. Women of all ages, driven largely by anxiety and depressive disorders. Could it have anything to do with technology? Could it have anything to do with EMF? It could have anything to do with 5G? I mean, it could have anything to do with so many different factors.
Well, it's the toxicities and how the toxicities come into the body in all different ways through our food, through EMF, through our drinking water, through everything. And not to mention that the world and the way things are done, people are just not happy. People are not happy, and they're not taught how to be happy, and they're not taught how to find their dreams, and they're not taught how to navigate the system in a way that's going to be beneficial to them. They're just, put in situations where they're completely uncomfortable and they don't like it and they don't know what to do. They think they just have to stay in it. I think there are situations where if you just took a look at someone who is highly depressed and looked at their life and just, kind of looked and realized what they have to go through on a daily basis, and they feel that they probably can't change anything, they just have to live with it, or it's just too difficult to change anything, that right there can throw you in a full-on depression. And there's not enough support out there for parents. The bills are going up, not down. I mean, it is getting harder day by day just to get by. And the money insecurities can really get to people, not to mention everything else. So it's a layered effect on our people, on everybody, making it even more important just to be kind. Just be kind. You don't know what somebody else is going through. They might be stuck in a certain mindset, but they're probably stuck there because they're in survival. And what they need from you is not a lecture, but just kindness.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the money situation, the fact that the wealth is being consolidated into the hands of the few, and more of it, it's everything. It's that realization, again, the words of the WEF, again, that you're going to own nothing. That doesn't make people happy to feel like they have no chance of ever owning anything, and that will just be slaves for life. Again, everything that this world system has done has been doing no good to the world. It's been very, very harmful. So again, we need to have a new way of doing things. So all the world's structure, all its governments, again, government, it's again, it literally translates to govern, control, mental, mind control. Everything that we've been brought up with is mind control. That's just the reality. Senator Rand Paul has referred Fauci to the DOJ for prosecution on 4 different occasions, 2 under Biden, 2 under Trump, now a 5th attempt. We'll see. Are some people just above the law, even though they lie, they cheat, they steal, and worse? Yeah, this leads to those mental conditions when people realize that it truly is demonic entities that are running the show, and apparently you can't bring these demonic entities to justice in this world system, which is completely unjust.
Yeah, it's a mess.
It is. And happy 4th of July, Quintress. Good to see you. U.S. airspace violated. Nobody's doing anything. As you see anomalous objects over Miami, whenever you see the big triangle, if it is one object, it's probably one of ours, again, TR3B and other subtypes like that. But again, it could also have grays in it, could also have reptilians in it. Interesting, that Disclosure Day movie, they only show grays. There's a lot of others out there too.
Oh, there's a ton out there right now.
Yeah, and that's part of the reality, but they have a purpose in what they're doing. So we were talking about grays. How about that? Do you ever notice that some chupacabra pictures, representations look a lot like a little bit more diabolical gray? The Babylonian Talmud details Palga, a demon, haunting palm groves in 5th century Babylonia, who afflicted a man urinating on a tree stump with fever, not plague, for disrespecting its domain. Some tied it to privy dangers and folklore. Rabbis urged vigilance near trees to avoid its wrath. So they're calling it a demon. I think that's part of the thing, because in fundamentalist Christianity, you're brought up with a certain mindset of demons and angels, without like expanding on it, and or even understanding where the words really originally come from, because words change as time goes on. Meanings can change, literally. There's a word for a bundle of sticks that as a little kid growing up, other kids might call you that word. It's not used nowadays, I don't think, at all. Yet at one point in time it meant a bundle of sticks, at another point in time it meant something very different, and then maybe it's not used at all anymore. These type of things happen all the time. Mauro Bellino, the Vatican translator, shows how much of our traditional Christian translations, especially when you go back to the Old Testament, they're really wrong. They're not even close. The Babylonian Talmud, though, is very curious. It defines kordiakos as a spirit on 3rd century Babylonia tied to heart affliction, possibly epilepsy. Interesting. What are these beings? Are they all the same type of beings, or are they really an assortment of different beings? Are they really demons, or are they truly interdimensional beings, extraterrestrial beings? Again, ultra terrestrial beings. I like that better because it includes kind of everything. Could they be all of the above in some cases?
Yeah, I think they tie into our world in many different ways. I think as above, so below, and parasites are a sign of imbalance, as are demons. But if you look, we did a video on this yesterday. If you look very closely at the face of parasites, I don't
They
know.
look demonic to me.
They look pretty demonic to me.
Yeah, that's just, again, the reality. So could it be that parasites are controlling our leaders? I would say so. I would bet money on that one.
It walks like a duck.
Yeah, exactly. 5D Life. Back in 1979, I was in first grade, Fort Lauderdale. Every Wednesday, my class was told to go outside in the hallway to swish with fluoride for your teeth.
Right.
No, keep the humans asleep. Keep that pineal gland, encased in calcium. Don't let it work and do what it's supposed to do. This is what they've been doing to us. And again, it's only really coming out now that people see the big scope of all this. We have been interacting. Our military, the United States military, works with extraterrestrials. Phil Schneider told you this 25, 30 years ago while he was still with us in body. Again, he met a very sad ending, a very suspicious and sad ending, as has so many people that speak up about this. It's just part of our understanding. Niara Isley's My Lab Abduction by the Alien Hybridization Program is now even more credible since Epstein victims have disclosed witnessing him shape-shifting, turning into a reptile. Well, yeah, this is Synchronos. Yeah, I don't have a doubt that we've shared with you guys when we remote viewed, and it was a scary remote viewing. And believe me, the entity on the other side of that remote viewing is nothing anybody wants to see. It shocked the crap out of me. But yeah, absolutely. He might have reported to some humans, but really the beings that he was reporting to were not human. Not at all.
No, definitely not human. There is this whole other world that we don't see, and once you go through an awakening or through certain experiences, just like so many of you know right there in chat, this other world that is mysterious, but it's there, and it has more access to us than we do of them, and that's icky.
Yes, absolutely. And these are sigils. We've talked about and done videos on sigils before, and there's different ways of making sigils. And we were sharing with you guys, I believe, was it on members? I think it was probably on a Patreon and members that we were sharing a couple different ways of making sigils. This is coming out um, well, the Goetia and the seals of Solomon, used to trap and control demons or daemons or demons. 72 goetic sigils come from the medieval and early modern tradition of ceremonial magic. They appear in the Lesser Key of Solomon, a grimoire also known as a book of spells or magical book, compiled in the mid 17th century, about 400 years ago, from sources that were several centuries older. Well, according to tradition, we're really going back more like 3,000 years, 2,500 to 3,000 years. Again, it's pseudepigraph, meaning it was falsely attributed to somebody, and that's really what we have, like we were sharing with Wayne. There is the pseudepigrapha, which is not included in, the Catholic canon. Well, some books are in the Catholic, but not in, again, Protestant Bibles. But when you really look at it, the four Gospels even, none of those guys were literate. Scholars that understand the times understand that they couldn't write those books that are attributed to them. Could it be that they were transcribed by somebody that was literate? Yes, absolutely. And again, this is why things become just a matter of faith and belief. And look at the word belief, and it's BLIE, right? Belief. It's just part of how we know English has been put together as a magical language, with a lot of dark connotations. But when you look to Solomon, interesting character, because, it's again, there's a whole magical system attributed here to Solomon, who was the son of King David in tradition, but may not have actually been even related to King David in reality, because again, we weren't there. None of us know. We could remote view and we could share our impressions, and we could get what we could get when we are in communication, because again, we can channel. Most beings communicate telepathically in this multiverse. That's just the way people communicate. Humans have had a lot turned off in their DNA, so most beings can do things that humans can't. Even the animals communicate telepathically all the time.
I think that's where we need to learn most of our lessons from, is from the animals. I mean, they're so much better than we are. I mean, look at dogs and how much they love unconditionally, and our horses with the hearts that are so very large. A horse's heart is like the size of a watermelon. So if you get around a horse that is calm with that heartbeat, it can help regulate your system. So we just have so many lessons we can learn from our beautiful creatures around us.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's really, really interesting when you start going down this and looking into it. The Emoji Movie, a damnable prophecy. It's interesting because in this particular little movie here, a little comical thing, it's actually saying that the very first emojis that were developed for use on the internet are really representations of the 72 goetic demons. Whoa, that wouldn't surprise me at all. It really wouldn't surprise me in the least if what they are really doing is, again, they understand that we are very powerful beings. The true humans out there with a true soul that is a fractal of the one source of all. You are a creator and you can manifest all sorts of things. You're very, very powerful. So again, they've gotten us to give them energy. They don't want you knowing this. They don't want you understanding this. Again, when you look at traditional Christianity, they operate on a gaslighting principle. They again give us the whole concept of original sin, and that we need somebody else to rectify the situation that, for us, because we can't do anything in and of ourselves. Nothing could be farther from the truth. We really are the ones with all the power. They just trick us into giving them our power by manifesting the things they want us to manifest.
It's all over.
This is what's going on. So, yeah, the first 72 emojis being literally representations of goetic demons, I wouldn't doubt that for a second. Oh, no, they're always tricking us. And so this is from Dr. Heather Lynn that our brother Arwayne Steiger has had on his show, I think more than once. And I know he was really thrilled with their conversation and interview. She's definitely made her rounds. You could find a lot of videos with her on YouTube being interviewed by many different people. And this from the H-Files. Our world leaders possess the ancient technology of demonic transfer. Ooh, the Vatican just declared a global emergency. Tucker Carlson called the president the Antichrist. A historian who infiltrated a UN-connected mystery school explains what you're watching unfold. Yeah, it from a historical standpoint, when we recognize what's going on, the inmates are running the asylum, so to speak. Again, everything is inside out, upside down. Back is, this is what we've been given. The fear of a being that would bring light. Well, wait a minute. Light is information. Light is gnosis. Light is again, that which brings us a knowing through, in many cases, just simply this experience that we have. When the sunlight is kissing your skin, it literally is giving you information and downloads. All you really need to do, although it does help your whole immune system if you do get exposure to the sun regularly, all you really need to do is have it on your forehead. Take in the energy consciously on your forehead, soak it in mentally into the pineal gland with the intent of activating your pineal gland, and you will start to activate that pineal gland. You could speed that up by doing Vedic mantras, because the Vedic mantras are tuned. They're put together. Each sound is a different frequency. When you put them together in these mantras, they are literally unlocking, like keys to a puzzle, the chakras and the petals in the chakras. And again, initiating the kundalini to flow through the body, which will eventually create the condition where you'll have an activated pineal gland. You'll be able to see through all the BS. You'll be developing the Merkaba light body and not even be limited again to just 3D, 4D. Although I think that true fractal souls, which are fractals of source, you're never limited. And I don't think you really even have to come back and incarnate again. I think that's more of a choice. But I do think there's a lot of trickery going on. And if you have been embracing the dark side and working with the goetic demons, then you might find that, you're going to have to come back to rectify karma because you've incurred a lot of karmic debt.
And a lot of what we're taught, I don't trust either, so we go by experiential, what we have experienced and, and what I see. And I see a lot of people being treated very unfairly and controllers having, whatever they want at their fingertips. So it's just a very unfair world at the moment, but it is still up to us, no matter how unfair it seems. What we do matters and it makes a difference. So creating that balance inside of our soul is important.
According to the oldest surviving mythology, and again, this is done by Dr. Heather Lynn, this article from her Substack. According to the oldest surviving mythology on Earth, kings did not rule alone. Each one had a demon assigned to him. Sumerians called them the Apkallu. They were divine counselors. They whispered in the ear of the ruler. I am a historian who studied inside a UN-connected mystery school. This is what I've spent a decade learning about, what you're now watching or reading. The word museum comes from the Greek museon, a temple where spirits entered the people who came seeking knowledge. Homer did not write the Iliad. He asked a goddess to possess him and use his voice. The opening line is a request, sing, O goddess. Everyone is using the word possess lately. The more popular term as of late has been demonic transfer technology. They say it like a metaphor. What if there is a pragmatic, even scientific explanation for what appears to be the demonic possession of our global leaders? This week, Tucker Carlson called the President of the United States the Antichrist on his podcast. The Vatican-hosted International Association of Exorcists, who warned Pope Leo XIV of a global surge in Satanism and formally requested a trained exorcist in every Catholic diocese on the earth. Father Chad Ripperger, one of the most prominent demonologists in the modern church, has been describing the specific mechanics of how demonic influence operates through institutions and individuals. Is it possible that world leaders are operating under the influence of an ancient demonic force? Dr. Heather Lynn has spent over a decade researching exactly this. I've spent about 4 decades researching this. Plus, I wrote a book about it. The answer is even more disturbing than the question because the ancient world did not merely describe possession. They built infrastructure for it. They named it. They classified its stages. They identified the methods of induction, the patterns of institutional spread, and the vulnerability of those closest to power. The piece traces that infrastructure from the temple's assumer to the Roman imperial court to the Vatican's operational taxonomy of demonic influence and into the halls of modern government. Along the way, you will learn why the word idea describes something that owns you rather than something you own, and what the Catholic Church has quietly identified as an emergency in 2026. Here you see some Mesopotamian plaques showing a hierarchy of demonic forces and protective spirits as well. They want to be possessed. This is not confined to the ancient world. Mongolian government officials gathered in a hotel conference center to participate in a shamanic possession ritual. They were not there to stop it. They hoped it will work. Well, here's the thing, too. I started down this road more in the 80s, even in the 70s. So, many, many years ago. I've taken part in more shamanic rituals, Wiccan, witchcraft, that type of thing, pagan rituals. I've practiced and taken part in some that are coming from the Golden Dawn. There was a long period of time when I did the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, the lesser banishing ritual of the hexagram, multiple times a day for every day. And at one point in time, though, I got to the point where I didn't want to have anything to do with anything from the Abrahamic tradition at all. So I pushed it all away because it was so interwoven with these dark energies that it felt so tangled that I just developed this feeling like I didn't want to have anything to do with it at all. And which is still kind of the point to this day, although I do trust certain beings, again, archangels like Sandalphon, who is of music, for instance, and arts and other things. I think there are these true archangelic forces, which are in some ways again, primal forces. These are beings that literally are overseeing creation itself on different densities, multiple different densities. And there are also much smaller forces which are under them. Literally, the Devic kingdom is that which includes beings like our devas from the Hindu tradition, beings like Shiva and Vishnu and Lakshmi and Ganesha, Parvati. It goes on and on and on. And then there's also little elemental beings. Every single flower has an elemental consciousness assigned to it, just to basically tend to it. Elemental beings are assigned to every tree, every flower, all the plant life, to kind of tend that garden. So in a way, when you look to the Bible and it says that humans' purpose was to tend the garden, to me, I view that as, again, being a reference point that we're here to take care of the planet and understand there's a much greater whole here. When you tend to the health and welfare of the planet as a whole, and you recognize yourself as an individual cell in something much bigger, then you're in alignment with the bigger purpose, which the archangels are, the angels are. Again, what's an angel? It's just simply a being that's not taken an incarnation. That's all, so I don't see necessarily difference in the soul per se, except for the fact that they haven't been tempted and by these darker forces that, again, when you take a body on, you kind of open yourself up to a lot of dark energies that will try to pull you into their circle where they could utilize you. And again, I do think that there are also inspirational beings that we could call daemons, Daemons. Literally, the Greek translation of that is a benevolent, that means good, nature spirit. But there's also beings that are malevolent, and that's where your DE without the A comes from, which again is a more modern type of belief system that has developed. Again, the Abrahamic tradition is much younger than the Hindu tradition or the shamanic traditions.
But each person, should definitely explore everything and decide what is best for them. I wouldn't want anyone to not look because they're curious and they're afraid to. You should look at everything. I think that's what traumatized me a little bit, is being told, don't look here, don't look there. So we're not here to tell you not to look at anything. Look at everything. I mean, definitely look at everything. I just think so much of this is, it's like people want you to believe what they believe, so they try to scare you away from the other thing. I think a lot of it is that, but you have to have your own experiences and come to your own conclusions. Ultimately, it's whatever works for you, whatever you prefer.
Yeah, everything I've come to the conclusion is that everything that we find in the Abrahamic tradition is a distortion of something that comes from somewhere else, because they've used the Abrahamic tradition to create their religious mind control web. And, that's their number one tool. And it really is utilizing all three of the, footstools, you could say, of the Abrahamic tradition, again, coming out of Judaism, supposedly. But then when you look at it, not entirely. It doesn't. When you look to the oldest references in Judaism of life after death, there's really nothing there. They don't even talk about life after death. Some didn't believe that there was life after death. Isn't that curious? Had nothing to do with life after death. It was all about who you are in this world and how you could better yourself in this world. Not out of body, not afterlife. No, it had nothing to do with that. In fact, a lot of those thoughts came into being during the Babylonian and again, the other exile as well. This is part of learning the bigger picture. It's again the case where words change, meanings change. When you look at this, the Apkallu, what was the transition period from when the Anunnaki ruled here themselves? You do have, again, the Sumerian kings list, and you see beings literally ruling for 20,000, 40,000 years. And then all of a sudden it changes. After the flood, after the Younger Dryas extinction event, everything changes, and the gods retreated. They were no longer like right here in front of us every day like they used to be. You have these depictions again of the giants that had human slaves, and human slaves are tied at the neck, their hands are tied behind their back, they're led along by ropes. They had to obey. When they left, this is when they basically shifted to this system. These are beings, again, that understand how to manipulate both 3D and 4D. They have an advantage that we don't. They've altered our ability to fully control our 4D experience. Truly, if we were not altered, we would have a totally different situation with the dream realm and our ability to literally manipulate your own personal frequency like an entity like Bigfoot does, where it seems like he's solid, then where'd he go? Footsteps that lead up to a tree and then they just disappear, or lead up to a wall and then they're gone. Where'd he go? He shifted his vibrational frequency. He left the 3D and just simply shifted to 4D. That's something we normally would have and been born with, but that's something that they took away from us by genetic manipulation.
Yeah, and I think there's good beings everywhere, even in the control system. I think there's good beings that are doing what they can to help anyone that is oppressed and help the innocent. So, it's just really having to go by what you have personally experienced and just being very careful and knowing that the information that all of us get, no one is exempt from this. The information that all of us get comes from a mass media source, no matter what it is. So I think that's why it's so important to, deduce it down to your personal experience and build your discernment so that you can navigate for yourself. That's so important. Some things might work for you, but they might come out of a system that you don't like, but they might work for you. They might push away the demons. And then sort things out later. But so many people are surrounded by these demons that are not very nice and really hurting people on a daily basis, and we just need to navigate our way out of that.
So the Apgalus, Sumerian Abgal. Now this is, again, there are also the 7 rishis in the Hindu tradition, and also you have it in Taoism as the 7 immortals. So you see that, but what they've done is twist things here and interwoven, and you would have to really spend a lot of time to understand in these studies to understand really how this has been so interwoven. So again, you have people looking to Poseidon and, making the connection from Poseidon to Enki, and then thinking, well, that must be then Shiva. This is, again, how they've kind of distorted and twisted everything. But when we go back to this, so when these beings no longer were going to be showing themselves physically to us, the Book of Enoch talks of, and again, I do think Book of Enoch is one of those things that leads to a lot of misconceptions as well. It gives you more information in some ways, but then it gets you ultimately falling deeper into a misconception of reality with the whole fallen angel thing, and not seeing the fact that these are not entities that were originally from here. Where again, there are angelic beings that have, spent most of their time, if not all their time, around our particular planet, our zone, our area. But again, they're not limited to it. But you have, again, this transition period where, they're getting their instructions. This is what they do. They literally call on these entities to still guide them. They're still calling on beings like Enki and Enlil and the like to guide them and give them their instructions. It very, very much is like Saruman contacting the Sauron. And they whisper in their ear, 1 sage per king, mediation. But here's the thing. there's also the same sort of thing going on with benevolent beings. And this is what they don't want you to know. Again, when we have so many channels now that are coming through, channeling a lot of the different light forces for freedom for humanity, the planet, forces of love and compassion. We can also communicate with them through channeling. So it's not all darkness, but it is true that the leaders of this world, yeah, they're still connected to, again, what we would call the reptilians, Draco, and the fallen Pleiadians, like the Anunnaki, like Enlil, Enki, Marduk, Ninhursag, again, those beings. And so, they're still taking orders from them from a distance.
Yeah, I mean, so much information out there. How do you know how to wade through it all appropriately? But for the fact that keeping in the back of your mind that, hey, whatever you're reading is coming from them, those beings. And I mean, demons, are they all really bad? Are they? Are we just told that they're bad? So we assume that they're bad. And people are in high places of power saying all aliens are demons. Then are people just supposed to blindly assume that everything is bad because it's named a demon? Where did that very popular idea come from?
Well, where it comes from was simply the maintaining control after they disappeared. After the Anunnaki left, after the gods are no longer here with us, is maintaining control. So eventually that looks like the church taking control. And anything that's going against the church is heresy, and people get boiled alive and drawn and quartered, and other things like that happen. Witch hunts, witch burning, killing the Gnostics, killing the Templars, killing. It goes on and on and on. The Cathars as well. In order to control the narrative, this is the thing. The leaders that have been in control of this world system, judge them by their fruit. What's been the fruit of their leadership? It's been death, war, destruction, disparity between the haves and the have-nots. That's really all you need to know. I mean, obviously, they are not in service to the greater whole. They're only in service to themselves. So when you look to daemon, again, often used to refer to lesser deities, it could more broadly signify the experience of divine power, in referencing, again, what we would call the Davic kingdom. The Davic kingdom goes all the way from archangels to tiny elementals like sprites and gnomes and things like that.
So, I mean, daemon is a very important type of being in Vedic astrology, because if you look at Vedic astrology, you can discern where your soul came from. Are you a deva? Are you a human? Or are you a demon? And when they say that, they don't mean like a demon, like Christian sense with the pointy horns and the tail and stuff. They mean a demon, a being that actually comes here to go against the grain, go against the system, and actually make themselves better. But in doing so, helps others to make themselves better. So humans, if you're a human soul, you come here to take whatever is given to you and you make it better and you give it back to the planet. The devas are a little different. They like to enjoy all the fine arts, the music, the laughing, the singing, and that's basically all that they want to do. but in Vedic astrology, I mean, these words are humans are, they all have a job. Demons, they all have a job. The devas, they have a job, and they're all incarnate here in the flesh.
So, again, when you look at the history of, again, that land there that we attribute so much, there's been so much warfare, so much conquest attributed to that small strip of land right there, Canaan, Palestine, Israel, Judah, when you look to Solomon and his Goetia and summoning, demons to literally, according to tradition, Literally, Solomon built his temple with the help of demons. He literally used demons to help build the temple. But the reality is, again, he's using his contacts to those who we call the Anunnaki and the reptilians to, again, achieve his ascendancy. According to the Bible, David gathered building materials for a temple that was to replace Israel's mobile house of worship called a tabernacle, which had been built under Moses' direction. Tabernacle, again, where you have the, you have the Ark of the Covenant. What was that, really? Was that technology? Was it radioactive? Was it some way to communicate, again, with off-planet beings, interdimensional beings? And, of course, you have, again, Moses coming down with the Ten Commandments and all that. And the fact that the burning bush, well, that sounds a lot like a jinn, what's the jinn look like? It looks like a consuming fire. Well, hey, you know what? Cindy and I actually got one on camera. We shared that with you guys in Mississippi, right by a military base that literally ended up with the slaughter of sheep and lambs. What happened at the temple? They slaughtered sheep and lambs. Here you go. I mean, this tells you these entities are demons. These are the demonic side of things. These are the things that you want to avoid and don't want to serve. Again, according to legend, Solomon's temple was helped to be built by demonic energies and entities, and he used magic to achieve that. Magic is really simply making the world conform to your will through the use of will. Again, that is something that's manifestation. It's understanding how it works. So again, the system wants to get you to think that you don't have any power in and of yourself. You have to follow the ways of the system. You have to give power to the system. Well, that's, again, how they utilize us to bring about their goals.
Oh yeah, yeah. They just want us to feel like we just really can't do anything, and we can, but it's all about filling our bodies full of toxins so that we don't feel like, literally don't feel like getting up and doing anything.
Yeah, and then again, Lily Blay was saying, or a feature in your brain, Ark of Covenant. There's other ways of looking at it too. I used to study all this deeply as I feel that my frequency was going up and up and up. A lot of things I just didn't want to touch anymore, and I wouldn't, and I would stay free and clear of, by choice, because it just felt like it was too low a frequency to go near it anymore. But I was very curious early on, although, quite honestly, I've always liked who I was at a core as a little kid. I liked who I was. The only time that I felt like I was starting to lose myself was really more like in my teen years and very, very early 20s, when I felt like I lost touch with myself because I was starting to get molded by the world into what the world wants you to be, taking on a persona that wasn't really me. It was, who, again, the corporation I was working for was telling me to be, what society was telling me to be. And I started to, feel like, not so happy with myself. And it took a long time to recover that and get back to the core of who I am and be happy with that. That's really, really important. And honestly, in the Hindu system of belief, the most important thing is being true to yourself. You got to learn who you are. The purpose of life is self-realization in the Hindu world. What does that mean? It means discovering who you are. That's what the purpose of life is. You take on limited personas to discover more about the bigger, higher self.
Yeah, Robbie, that's great. The ballroom is the third temple. I know, right? And it was funny years ago. I was saying, I have a feeling that third temple is right in front of our faces, like it's already built. And I told Mike that I'm like, I can't explain it, but all I'm saying is it's already built. It's
it the
funny.
White House?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, is it the White House or is it the new ballroom again, the ballroom? Solomon's temple again, there's so much allegory there. Again, judge it by its fruits. What happened in the temple? It was blood sacrifice. Blood sacrifice. That should tell you all you need to know. King Solomon's secret. Yes, I mean, he was serving the dark side in order to, again, satisfy his ego, his desires for the things he wanted to achieve. He used the demons that he got in contact with to make it all happen. King Solomon and the demon Orneus. Oh, yeah. I mean, you could read more about this. There's literally the Testament of Solomon, which again is another pseudepigraphal composite text ascribed to King Solomon. And it talks about that. It talks all about this. A demon named Orneus harassed a young man who is favored by Solomon by stealing half of his pay and sucking out his vitality through the thumb on his right hand. These parasites suck our life force. If you are addicted to pornography, and we don't talk about this much, but you are having your life force drained. That is a demonic thing. It is. And this is part of the realization. I think people, as they wake up, they go through stages of awakening. And at first we're probably telling ourselves, well, I don't have to give up this. I don't have to give up that. I'll give up this because that might be really bad, but I think this is okay. So I'll keep, whatever it is. Whether it's alcohol, whether it's prescription drugs, whether it's non-prescription drugs, whether it's bad habits, whether it's, allowing your temper to get to you at times and doing and saying things that you shouldn't, or acting in a manner that is, again, narcissistic abuse. There's so many different ways we could do things and we could kind of lie to ourselves. But as our frequency gets higher, you're just not going to be able to do the same things. You're not going to associate with the same people. And, these parasites, they live off of our life force. That's what they do. When two people that don't even know each other, soldiers on a battlefield, never met each other, never did anything wrong to each other, and then they're forced to go kill each other, the demons are the ones feeding. So those that serve just war are serving demons.
Yeah, and it can take a minute to get yourself to a certain point. I mean, you can only do what you can do, and as long as you're just trying to make today better than it was yesterday, working on yourself, well, that's all you need to do.
Yeah. So, again, Solomon gets Beelzebub under his command, and now he can order around these different demons, which we learned this one is literally sucking the life force dry from people. That's exactly what they do. By the way, what do ticks do? They suck the life force dry from you. How about mosquitoes? They do the same thing. So again, we could see, I do think that things like ticks and mosquitoes, I don't think they're really indigenous to this natural matrix. I think they were brought here by these demonic entities because they're of a similar nature.
No mosquitoes on 5D, no ticks on 5D. Butterflies, yes. Dragonflies, yes.
Absolutely. So it's really, really interesting. We could go on for hours with all this. But, here you go. It's like King Solomon conquering the demons to then get them to serve him and his ego. Because when you look at Solomon and David, what do you see? Very flawed individuals. And again, these are individuals that are concerned with their legacy with, things that they've achieved, they're all in service to self. They're not in service to others. They're not operating out of love. They're not operating out of compassion. They do operate out of fear of getting, somebody higher up the pole, Yahweh, etc., mad at them. Oh, they're very fearful about some of these other entities being mad at them and then lashing out at them. But no, they're all about ego. When you look at all of our politicians, unfortunately, the truth is these politicians, again, they're servicing themselves. That's all they're really serving is themselves. And they're also serving these other dark entities that have still been controlling from the shadows, going back to the time of, again, the Sumerian legends and myths. So, yeah, when we look at this, nonstop war, nonstop conflict, again, this desire to create a third temple so there could be more blood sacrifices. No, we're done with that. That's something from the Kali Yuga. That's not from the age to come. Again, certainly not 5D. When you look to Zoroastrianism, this is really something that deserves a series of videos on. Ahura Mazda. Well, that word Ahura, which is, again, that's the top of the heap in Zoroastrianism. Ahura sounds like Asura. And so, one of the things that we see, that we do know, is historians will tell you too, that the God of my enemies is a demon to me, and vice versa. This is something that was done in history because, again, it was all about manipulation when these beings, again, divided the world up into these different tribes and kept us fighting each other. Just simply a tactic to, again, keep themselves fed. And so, you have beings acting as if they're of the light, but no, they're not of the light at all. They're actually of the opposite. These little puppies, though, they're of the light.
Puppies are good. Puppies are good. They can teach us a lot. We need to learn from our animals, seriously. I mean, our animals teach us all that we need to know. I mean, you can get through life doing very well if you just simply learn what a kindergartner does naturally, just put things back when you take them out of their place, play nicely. And if you can get through the day without biting someone, that is a win these days.
So, yeah, absolutely. So I hope you guys found this interesting. Did it create any new questions? And it create anything you want to go down as far as rabbit holes? Please do share with us what you're thinking and what you want to, learn more about and go into. We thank you guys, as always, for all your support. We couldn't do it without you guys. I hope you have a great 4th, a great holiday out there. Cindy's going to give us some dings, and I'll say Loka Samasta Suki no Bhavantu, which means may all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may my own thoughts, words, acts, and deeds contribute to the happiness and freedom of all. So again, may you all be filled with compassion and love and protected always.
Okay, you guys, here we go. You guys be safe out there, and let's put out plenty of prayer for those who are hot in this weather, that need help, need support, need relief. Be very careful out there on the 4th. Please, please keep your pets home. Put collars on them. Make sure they have food and water. Just take good care of your pets. So many get lost. And I was part of a group in California that really advocated to have people really take care of their pets, because when you're a mother and child lost their lives because a pet got scared, ran out into a very busy highway, and people lost their lives. So please keep your pets home, keep them safe, keep yourself safe, and have a good time out there.
Namaste.
Namaste.